I think this is going to be an interesting video. I'm hoping to see your reaction to this because there's going to be a new update, Le Mans Ultimate version 1.4, that brings Daytona. Of course, that is basically the headline in Laguna Seca. But as always, when we have these major versions, what is important is really not the cars and tracks they bring, it's the changes they bring. So the big thing about this, of course, is Daytona and Laguna Seca adding into the WEC game, which is something quite new. But also we have a new Cadillac V-Series Evo and the Alpine A424 Joker. This DLC will come in 3 parts. You can buy them separately. The track pack one will have a cost of £15, 18 euros or $20, and the track pass will have a cost of £35, 40 euros or $45. 2 tracks, 2 cars with this, even though the Evo and the Joker updates aren't really that new, it don't change really that much, but in essence that's 4 pieces of content. But there are a few more interesting updates here. The first one that will be very important for those of you with lower-end CPUs and GPUs will be the addition of FSR, AMD FSR. This will be compatible with pretty much all hardware that is able to run this game anyways, and it should free up a bit of performance out there, that extra 10 FPS that you probably need to maintain everything stable, and in my opinion is working quite nicely. Then there's 2 pieces of drama. The first one, you've probably seen a lot of videos around it, will be the addition of Jokers. You can get a Joker at 10 races, one at 20 races, and then the other one 30 races later. And what that allows you is to essentially clear a bad race that you had, so it doesn't impact your internet penis points. And the other one is adding practice servers for Race Control and Race Control Plus subscriptions, so you can essentially actually get into those practice servers when the races are going on. Generally, when you don't have that, you have to wait until it goes around and you can actually enter the practice. So those are 2 pieces of little bit of internet drama that we've seen around, and later in the video we'll talk about that. But now let's go to Daytona. Welcome to Daytona. It wasn't something that I was expecting to say in a title that is based out of WEC, and having a NIMSA game, my god, the AI is crazy. Having a NIMSA track in a WEC game is pretty dope, especially one that is as good as Daytona. And I've been driving this for a while, and I must tell you, I know I throw the word game changing a lot because it's kind of funny, everything changes, but this does change things around because now it has a different type of approach to this WEC title. Hopefully that can have us more tracks than just the ones in WEC, maybe in the future Nürburgring 24. Now, this version of this of Daytona, I think, and I don't mean any disrespect to the other versions of Daytona that are out there, I think this is the best version in sim racing in terms of graphics. It much better than one in iRacing. I mean, no disrespect once again. In terms of track, in terms of the map, it's very close to iRacing, if not 1-to-1, especially here at the bus stop. iRacing does have the new one, and they feel quite similar in the bumps and all of that. But I must tell you that driving this with all of the shenanigans that you see around with the multi-class, where an hypercar driver just like myself that apparently has an aim regarding an equestrian puts their nose nowhere where they should be, and the GT3 cars appear in places that are not really that usable for the GTP drivers. This is quite a riot, and driving this here with the bots, with the changes that they have made in terms of the graphics, some tweaks, you know, in the FSR, it is absolutely crazy. I'm recording this, you know, this is in very high quality FSR. Most of the stuff is pumped up to the maximum, and I'm recording with OBS. That generally takes quite a bit, and I'm having, with all of the cars in the track, which is a full roster, I think it's like 40 or 50 or something like along those lines, I'm having 120 to 150 FPS right now, which is, you know, pretty good. FSR is a welcome addition, man. this is just practice. I've been racing around with you shouldn't do this over the apron. I've been racing around also in Daytona with the bots, and they're a bag of fun. So if you're not into like, oh, I don't want to do multiplayer, you're gonna have fun with the bots, and it's the same thing with Laguna Seca. But I think more in Daytona because of the layout. Feels a little more dangerous in places than Laguna, even though Laguna is not as wide. This is an absolute riot. The two cars that are in here, the Joker Alpine and the Chevrolet are okay, I guess. I don't like the Chevrolet at all. The Chevy just doesn't gel with me. This one is pretty good. Oh god, yeah, there he goes. That's what I was saying about putting your... Oh my god. That doesn't help me a lot. The Chevy, I don't like it. This Alpine is okay, but I think the one that feels better for me, and I've tried a few, has definitely been the Toyota. The Toyota feels more planted, feels more down to earth, I suppose, easier to drive. This one I've been trying around, and it's okay. I guess it's one of those cars that you can drive it and you can get good at with it. Oh my god. Oh my god. A drifting overtake to the Chevy, but now he has better grip. Let him go. And it is okay. The GT3s drive like a dream here. The only thing that I'm not so good about this car is at high GI banking, so this area, the force feedback starts to wobble around a little bit, which is really not the case with the Chevy. Oh no. It's really not the case with the Chevy. It's really not the case with the Toyota, for example. It's really definitely not the case with the GT3s. So there must be something there that requires a little bit of tuning in the way that the force feedback is delivered. But in pure feel, this thing is an absolute treat. This version of Daytona, with all of the cars, with all of the improvements, the lighting improvement changes a little bit of the taste of the light. The white balance is a bit cooler, I suppose, in places, which works quite nicely. It feels more, photographic, or more like you see in cameras when you are watching this. I think it's every January or something. Looks quite nice. Try to overtake this guy before the kink over there. And everything looks fantastic. This for me is probably the best update they have done, even though there are a few things that we'll have to talk about at the end of the video. But in terms of driving, or in terms of feel, I suppose, in visual feel, this thing feels much better, and in terms of performance, it also feels a little bit better than before. 150, 160 FPS with all of these bots, it's pretty good. So I think this update in that regard is pretty cool. The last track of the DLC is Laguna Seca. There will be 4 more, I believe, 2 more packs. And Laguna Seca is one of the most popular tracks around for multi-class as well, and it was very popular in the Assetto Corsa Competizione, not multi-class, but in iRacing. You often see this in the IMSA series, and you have all the GTPs killing the GT3s around here, because there is a huge differential in speeds, let me tell you, especially at these corners where they are quite fast. You don't need to brake or lift that much in some cases. And we can already see here there's quite a big speed differential here, and it makes it quite fun to drive it around. I haven't tried it with the hypercars or the LMP2s. I just tried it with the GT3s, and for me it's always been a huge bag of fun in Assetto Corsa, and it is a bag of fun in iRacing as well. And here continues to be exactly the same, though I'm pretty sure that's going to be a big problem, especially here at the Corkscrew, when there will be a lot of dive bombs. Now, the version they have made, it is updated to the latest drawings or the latest layout of the track, with some of the exits having a bit of runoff with some sort of tarmac at the outside. For example, here you don't hit directly the sand, which is a good thing. It's not all places, just in a few of the places, especially going uphill. The graphics continue, just like in Daytona, to be marvelous to watch. I love the little tweaks they have done in terms of color. It's a a bit on a cooler side. This was always a cool game in terms of white balance, but I think this works quite well. And in terms of graphics, the way they presented the track, very top notch. I kind of prefer this version to Assetto Corsa Competizione, to be fair, but it's, you know, more or less head to head. Works still quite nicely, and it runs really well. With all of these cars, I'm having 155 FPS while recording, which for me it is pretty good. Having this FSR, I'm not noticing many changes or any changes at all in terms of quality, and doing FSR, even though it's 1.0 at ultra quality, keeps everything tidy, I suppose. So this game actually is working quite well with that superscaler. But I will definitely need your help with UVR, guys, to see if the superscaler made any difference, improvements in terms of VR, or if made everything a bit worse. Go on the comments and say that. So in terms of tracks, I can't really complain. I love how everything is working. The multiplayer aspect will be very interesting, but in terms of driving against the AI or the bots, works quite well. They are a little bit on the patient side, but they can still be quite deadly every so often. So that means, once again, if you want to just race against the AI, this is more than normal or more than okay. I've done a couple of races here with GT3s. Worked quite well for like a 30-minute race, 45 minutes race. Works quite well. I suppose it'll be the same if you do some sort of endurance race as well. The AI in R-Factor 2/LMU works pretty nicely. So, in terms of driving, in terms of feel, in terms of performance, this is an update that actually delivers it. The game runs and drives great now with this new update. I want the VR guys to tell me about VR updates with FSR. That would be good to know. However, this update is especially not about just Daytona. As always, all of these major points +1 tend to have bigger things other than just the tracks. It tends to be the thing on user experience or user interface that makes or breaks kind of the reception of it. And this one has not been any exception, especially with the implementation of the jokers that will be coming around. The first implementation that was being, you know, only people that had race control was definitely a shot in the foot or an own goal, if you want to say. Now it's open to everybody. Honestly, I don't really feel that the jokers are needed. To be quite honest, there have been better implementations than I've done here with making it easier to report, and reports being much easier to be done on replay, and they actually looking at the reports. That for me is much better than having a joker to clean your, you know, internet penis points. But once you start having this idea of a joker, you can't really run back to not having a joker because Pandora's box has been open. And now it's not behind a paywall, now it's for everybody. So I suppose, hooray. But there are things in this that could have been much better. One thing that is more important than a joker to protect your internet penis points would be making a qualify system, in my opinion, that doesn't impact your internet penis points. And what I mean by this is, in the method that Le Mans Ultimate implements their qualify, is that if you have a bad qualify, that impacts your points attribution at the end of the race. So that means, in theory, you can win a race and lose ELO, which for me doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because it really only matters where you finish, not really where you start. Otherwise, really, what's the point? Another change they have done is the implementation now of a 24/7 type of practice service. If you, once again, have the race control plus or whatever it is, so you have to pay to actually get access to the training. That doesn't happen in iRacing, but again, you're paying for it. That didn't really happen in Assetto Corsa Competizione with LFM. And honestly, I'm a big guy to reduce friction on your user experience, and in this one I have just a very big recommendation, or a small recommendation, that could probably take some of the heat off of Studio 397 regarding this decision is basically if that practice service is not possible to enter because I don't have race control and I do not have race control, why can't I have like a press button and do play offline with the same type of settings that I have on the online play? This would end up for me saving me a lot of time. I wouldn't have to figure out or try to imagine what type of settings the online settings have. And I do not have every single time I want to do a practice session to go into the race weekend and then go to define the race weekend or whatever, because that's still one of the most annoying parts out of this single player experience in this game. The single player could be much faster to do, and if I have just a button to launch it in single player without any of that kerfuffle, that would be so much better. Excluding the Joker drama we've seen around this, maybe Batman is around to destroy this Joker drama. This has actually been a fun update. It's one of the most fun updates that I've seen. I love Daytona. Laguna Seca is pretty good. Uplifting performance, which is always good to have, especially when you do it for free. And yeah, game drives great, feels great, performs great. I think 1.4 is probably the best version we've seen so far.